In June 2014, Maria and Derek Broaddus and their 3 children had found their dream home and decided to make the purchase. It was everything they wanted and close to Maria's childhood home. The home was located at 657 Boulevard in Westfield, New Jersey, and was in the 30th safest city in the United States. Little did they know they would never get a chance to enjoy or even live there due to unusual and threatening letters. Three days after the sale went through, a letter arrived addressed to the new owner in dark, chunky letters. The letter was typed up and it read,
"Dearest new neighbor of 657 Boulevard, allow me to welcome you to the neighborhood. How did you end up here? Did 657 Boulevard call to you with its force within? 657 Boulevard has been the subject of my family for decades now, and as it approaches its 110th birthday, I have been put in charge of watching and waiting for its second coming. My grandfather watched the house in the 1920s, and my father watched in the 1960s. It is now my time. Who am I? There are hundreds and hundreds of cars that drive by 657 Boulevard each day. Maybe I am in one. Look at all the windows you can see from 657 Boulevard. Maybe I am in one. Look out any of the many windows in 657 Boulevard at all the people who stroll by each day. Maybe I am one. You have children. I have seen them. So far I think there are 3 that I have counted. Do you need to fill the house with the young blood I requested? Better for me. Was your old house too small for the growing family? Or was it greed to bring me your children? Once I know their names, I will call to them and draw them to me."
The author then signed as The Watcher in a cursive font. After receiving the letter, the family reached out to the previous owners, John and Andrea Woods. The Woods family stated that they had never received any letters up until right before they moved. They thought nothing of it and threw it away. After speaking with the previous owners, both families agreed to go to the police and report the letters. The police informed them to keep this to themselves and not to disclose any information, especially to the neighbors, as they were all now suspects. About 2 weeks after going to the police, the Broaddusses still had yet to move into their new place, but were sent another letter. The letter included personal information such as their surname, though misspelled, and their children's nicknames and birth order. The letter even mentioned seeing their daughter in an enclosed porch painting. The letter asked, "Is she the artist in the family?" The letter then went on to say,
"It has been years and years since the young blood ruled the hallways of the house. Have you found all of the secrets it holds yet? Will the young blood play in the basement? Or are they too afraid to go down there alone? I would be very afraid if I were them. It is far away from the rest of the house. If you were upstairs, you would never hear them scream. Will they sleep in the attic? Or will you all sleep on the second floor? Who has the bedrooms facing the street? I'll know as soon as you move in. It will help me to know who is in which bedroom. Then I can plan better."
After receiving the second letter, the Broaddusses decided to stop bringing their children to the house and paused their plans to move in. This then led to a third letter simply stating,
"Where have you gone to? 657 Boulevard is missing you."
About 6 months after the letters, the family decided to sell the house but were unsuccessful, due to the rumors that had spread about the home. After a year of investigation, there were no leads, and this created a lot of stress in the Broaddus family. Derek became depressed, and Maria developed PTSD. Both were afflicted with paranoia as well. After their multiple attempts to try to sell the home, they considered selling the home to a developer who would tear down the home and split it into 2 homes. Unfortunately, the 2 homes would each be 3 feet too small for the mandated size of the neighborhood, thus not being able to be done. They even tried to appeal their decision and were unanimously rejected. Ironically, it was noticed that in 2018 the same board approved splitting up a different lot near their home, and the lot required a larger exception than what the Broaddusses had requested.
During the Christmas of 2015, families who had expressed anger towards us for trying to split the property received a threatening letter signed Friends of the Broaddus Family.
About 2 years after the first letter, in the spring of 2016, the Broaddus family found another family who were willing to rent the home from them with one condition, that they could back out and leave if another letter arrived. Ironically, only 2 weeks later, the house received a letter addressed to
the vile and spiteful Derek and his wretch of a wife Maria.
While investigating the odd case with no fingerprints, no digital trail, and no way to place a suspect at the scene, law enforcement were able to put together 3 suspects. A man nicknamed the Gamer due to being known to play violent games as a character named the Watcher, Michael Langford for his habit of watching his neighbors, and the Broaddus family themselves due to suspicion they faked their letters for attention and for possible movie deals. Police were surveilling the house one night around 11 p.m. when a car had stopped in front of the house. They traced back the car to a young woman who lived nearby, though her boyfriend lived on the same block of 657 Boulevard. While being questioned by police, the woman informed them that her boyfriend was into some really dark video games, including a game where he played a character called the Watcher. Unfortunately, the Gamer never showed up to any interviews with the police after agreeing to come. Law enforcement did not have enough evidence against him and could not force him to come. He was never examined. Michael was brought forth by Derek Broaddus, who suspected him after they had attended a neighborhood BBQ after the arrival of the first letter. Langford lived next door with his 90-year-old mother, and he has been since the 1960s, the same time frame the Watcher had claimed that his father had watched 657 Boulevard. Furthermore, Langford's father had passed away about 12 years ago prior to the Broaddusses. This aligns with when the Watcher said that they had been watching for the better part of 2 decades. Michael was also known to spook neighbors by literally watching them, walking through their yards and looking into their windows. Another detail was that due to the positioning of the homes, Langford would have had a perfect view into the porch space where the Watcher had mentioned their daughter painting. Law enforcement had questioned Langford after the first letter, but he had denied knowing anything, as the interview was before the arrival of the second letter. Some believed it would have been foolish to keep sending letters after being interviewed. The Langfords were dropped as suspects after DNA was discovered on one of the letters belonging to a woman. Police speculated Michael's sister, Abby. They compared DNA on the letter with that of a water bottle used by Abby. They were not a match. With suspicion spreading that it was unusual, the Broaddusses were able to move from a $315,000 house to a $770,000 house and finally into a $1.3 million home with refinanced mortgages. This suspicion led to the theory that the family was experiencing buyer's remorse with the house and had created the letter to get out of financial trouble. However, the trauma experienced by the Broaddus family is what led to the theory being irrelevant, along with the fact that at the same time of the first letter, yet another family on the block had also received a letter from the Watcher. Similar to the Woods family, the family disregarded the letter as they had never had any problems previously. As mentioned before, after being denied for splitting the home, the people who had supported the decision to deny the Broaddusses had received threatening letters signed Friends of the Broaddus family. It was later found out that these letters were sent by Derek Broaddus. Despite his claims that he had only sent them due to years of frustration and that he had not written the original Watcher letters, it drew suspicion. Luckily, the Broaddusses were able to eventually sell their home in early July 2019. Though the Watcher has never been identified and no new letters have circulated, will the new owners be introduced to the Watcher?